Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter. I wanted to post a clip from our most recent Third Fleet podcast, which just went live today, if you're watching this when it went up, because honestly, I've always wanted to talk about my thoughts about the endgame or lack thereof in Monster Hunter Rise, but every time I've ever sat down and tried to come up and formulate my thoughts, it felt like over-scripted and just weird. And just talking with other people opens up different ways of expressing yourself, and I was quite happy with how I was able to articulate my thoughts on this situation with Rise and the status of it all. And so I'm going to take a clip from our episode and I'm going to put it on this channel. I do want to remind you the channel is live over on Rurikan's channel because he does do all the production and the publishing for it. So please go over there, subscribe, check out the videos, or he also publishes it very kindly on other audio platforms. So you'll be able to find links there as well. To Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and stuff like that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my response. I also enjoyed hearing Rurikan's and 269's input as well. So sit back and I hope you enjoy.
So, I don't know how controversial this is, but I like being controversial.
Here we go.
So I'll ask the question.
Controversy! Whoop, whoop,
Okay.
whoop, the alarm.
Alright. So how
Yeah,
do
lots
you
of
feel
comments.
about the endgame in Rise at the moment? And do you feel Capcom did the right thing?
Do you want to go first, Gaijin, or shall I go first?
You go first.
So,
I get longer. You're more concise than I am with your opinions.
so to me, when it comes to Rise, the thing is, the problems that I have with Endgame, I feel are not the same problems that other people have with the Endgame. So a lot of people, they want to get that chase that they had with World with the decorations. I personally don't want that. I'm very happy with the fact that I can get the decorations, I can craft them. That in and of itself is kind of a chase because you can actually target the decorations that you want. It's like, oh, I'll go hunt this monster, get the materials to craft this decoration, so you can get the decorations done faster. That to me is more appealing. The charms is I don't really see the charms as a big deal because you get a charm with 2 tier 2 sockets. You're pretty much good to go for 90% of the builds that you want to make. If you really want something completely crazy and out of the blue, sure, you'll need a better charm. But for 90% of the builds, you get 2 tier 2 slots, you're pretty much set to go. So I like being able to just do the builds that I want and get the tools to do the builds.
Yeah.
The thing that I am missing is simply quantity of quests. It's not even the repeatability. It's the quantity, and not even just quantity of quests, but quantity of challenging quests. Because most of the quests, you go through the game and you just beat everything, and very few things will challenge you. A couple of apexes here and there will give you a couple of problems, but after a while, very few things will challenge you. But then you get these 2 latest quests that they did, which is the Apex Soulseer and not Soulseer, the Apex Mizutsune and Apex Zenogre, and the 2 Rajang quest. That was amazing because those were actually more challenging because they tweaked the values of the monsters. They're higher, they hit harder, they give you more thing. And to me, it's just give me 100 of these and I'll be happy. That's all I want. Just give me 100 quests on this difficulty level and I'll be pretty happy. That's what I want. I just want more challenge because I have all of these really powerful builds and there's 2 quests for me to go do that actually challenge these builds. Right? Yeah. So it's the whole chase of the decorations or whatever, I don't care that much for that. I actually, when I went into World, right, and I would go do investigations, the reason I liked investigations is because it was random. It's oh, here's it's not because of the random rewards, it's because it gives you interesting scenarios, particularly as a streamer. It was cool, sometimes I'd see a really quirky quest and I'd be oh, this is a good one to put on stream. Oh, here's a friggin' tempered Rajang plus a silver Rathalos plus I don't know, something else ridiculous, right? And I'm let's go, and it's got 1 feint. Let's see who gets the feint, so that we can all laugh at you after you feint, right? And that was the interesting part of it. I never went after a while. Sure, you grind decos for a while, but after a while, I wasn't going into tempered quests expecting to get a good decoration. I gave up on that. It was never going to happen. I went into the tempered quests because they were fun and they were more challenging. So that's what I want. If I could get investigations and just give me random monsters with the potency of Rajang and Apex, Mizutsune, and Zenogre from these last 2, I'd be pretty damn happy. I'm good. Yeah, just give me that.
Nice. What about you, Gaijin?
Okay, so I'll give you my essay. No. So I have It's my thoughts on it are a little complicated. I would say that am I happy with the end game? There is no end game.
Yeah.
I feel confident in saying that, and that's not an insult. It's just there's no end game loop. It's like Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Didn't have an end game. Did I love the game to death? Heck yeah. Do I love Rise? Yes, but there are certain things about there being a lack of end game that are not good, and there's certain things that are good. It's a little weird. So, I'm fine with the game not having end game. Like 3U, because that was an Ultimate release, there was enough content there, which I think Rise Ultimate, I'm assuming they're making it, that will have, I will assume. So even if they decided to say, we're not going to have an end game, I would be fine with it. That being said, there is a subsection of players who want to get a little bit more enjoyment out of the game, and I think that having an end game mechanic is a good thing in general. I think if it's the end of the life cycle, it's the Ultimate release, it needs an end game, only for the fact of the end game can't be integral to the average person's experience. It has to be dessert. It has to be something that's completely optional. That's where I hated the decorations, that it affected the average player's play session, that you couldn't even try out certain builds because something that was integral to the core experience was tied to the end game. Where the actual end game of Iceborne I thought was great, like augments and stuff, you can get little health augments and stuff. You don't need to do that. Like, my daughter beat Fatalis without having many augments. Like, it was just nice icing on the cake that you could engage with and get some extra stuff if you wanted that. And I think that's great. And I think it'd be great. Hopefully they'll find a way to do that for Rise Ultimate. So I think but that being said, I'll say, okay, so am I saying that the lack of an end game is a mistake? Yes and no. It's not the Ultimate release, so I don't think that it needs it. It would have been better with one. However, Capcom does have a bad track record, in my opinion, when it comes to integrating endgame loops in the base game. I am not a fan of how they did it in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I think they hit the idea right where that was the first time they ever did an endgame. And I thought it was, in that respect, it was great. Guild quests were a great idea. It was a great way to keep people in the community active and playing and chasing stuff after the party was over. That was cool. But they committed to it in the base game, which meant that when they came out with you guys didn't get Monster Hunter 4 in the West, but we had Monster Hunter 4 here in Japan before we had 4 Ultimate.
No, I think
and
they
had guild quests. Yeah, guild quests were in that game.
Yeah.
And it basically, what ended up happening is because they didn't want people to feel, I'm putting words in Capcom's mouth here, my assumptions. I'm assuming that they did, if you put an end game in the base game, right? You're almost by default committing to having to double down on that idea for the Ultimate release. Because you don't want people who played the base game, who grinded the hell out of it for 1,000 hours, for that all to mean nothing. Like, if there was no guild quest in 4 Ultimate, but there was in 4, you're basically saying your effort, you had fun for a year, but it's all gone now. Like, that would really piss off people. So you have to double down on the idea. Guild quests kind of worked, kind of didn't work, because they doubled down on it when Ultimate came out, and it ended up being Monster Hunter, Shagaru, and Rajan. That was the game. That's all people played, and it didn't. There's certain aspects of that I didn't like. Then it gets really dark, in my opinion, when you go to Generations and Generations Ultimate. I don't think, this is still suspicion on my behalf, I don't believe that they were ever planning on making Generations Ultimate. I think there's enough signs there in the game design that prove that. The Deviant system was an endgame loop, and it was awesome. It was a little too grindy, but it was awesome. You didn't have to do all of them. You could pick the ones that you wanted. You knew what you were going to get. You grinded it. It was fun. It was a great idea. But because it was put into a base game, when they decided, okay, we're going to make an Ultimate version, they doubled down on what was already too grindy of a system, and it became even more ridiculously grindy. And it ended up being a bad decision, because it's like they kind of, what do they call it, like pigeonholed themselves into this. They committed to it early, where I think Rise is doing enough stuff experimentally, both with like Rampage, with just the gameplay in general. There's enough experimentation there that perhaps with hindsight of how I think that they didn't quite get it right on the previous games, maybe it's a good thing they didn't put an end game in this one, because I don't want them to have put it in there and then have to double down on it in the next game. Can you imagine if they tried making like the Rampage the end game? Like, that could have been disastrous. And then they would have to double down on it, because people are spending hundreds of hours, and you need to respect that time with the Ultimate release. So, however, I do think that they've wasted some opportunities here.
Yeah.
I think with the like, for example, I was saying, like, having the difficult quest. This is a testing bed. This will inform how difficult the next game should be, the ultimate release, and they're not doing enough of it. I think they're way too committed to their own ideas without looking at player feedback. For example, why didn't we have a Rampage quest that was an event quest that was very hard to clear? Like, very hard to clear.
A Rampage where you could actually lose.
Lose, yes. The thing is like, I want to know what that looks like, and I want to know if that works, and I want to see how people receive it, right? Like, what does a very difficult Rampage look like? Is it too chaotic? Because that will inform how they should do the ultimate, but they didn't even do it. That was free research. They could have just made a really hard Rampage,
there's not
and
a
then
single
see
hard
how that
Rampage in the game.
Okay, let's keep it optional. Let's not double down on that. But they lost the opportunity because now there's not enough people even actively playing it, that it's too late. If they have it planned, then it's too late. They should have did it earlier. So I feel kind of like there was some missed opportunities. But I also think, again, just from my own personal opinion on how they did for you and Generations Ultimate, Iceborne had an advantage, right? Like, they built a new endgame, and were able to vastly ignore the augmentations of World. But augmentation was it was stealing the idea from 4U anyways. There's two endgames in 4 Ultimate that people don't realize. There's the good endgame, which I think is, because it's purely optional, which is the Apex system. It's challenging as hell. You can augment your weapons. It's just a fun way to min-max and push out a little bit extra and make your favorite weapon shine. But you didn't need to do it. Then there was the guild quest, right? And then that's where the power creep came in, and repetitious stuff. So they took the best idea, which was augments, and they put it into the end game of World. But the World also had the end game of decorations, which I hated. So, like, I hope that they commit to one end game. I don't want there being two mechanics, and I hope whatever it is just supplementation and a way to keep it alive and not integral. Yeah. So it's a complicated answer, but I guess in the end of the day, I'm conflicted, I would say. I'm happy in some regards, and I'm not happy in some.
One of the things that I just wanted to add to my answer is that there was something very special at the end of Iceborne, which was when you finish the final quest with Shara, and you're flying off into the distance, and they show you the guiding lands for the first time. It was magical. Like that was, because, like, here's a brand new map, and I was like, wait, what? This is amazing.
Yeah,
like,
just fighting Shara was like magical in itself. I just loved that fight. Shara, it was like super cool. And the armor that you got from Shara?
No, Shara was terrible, dude.
But thank God that they
man.
Yeah, just
his eyes are looking.
I would say thank goodness that they committed to a pseudo live service, and the idea that they were making updates to Iceborne, because I hated the original guiding lands. I really did not like it. And I made a video on that, and I came back to it after they had done substantial improvements.
It was
really, and they made some changes that really changed it, and I think it's fabulous now. But how it was on release, yeah.
But what about what about your thoughts on all of that, 2-6? Where do you fall in?
I thought I was going to disagree with things that you're going to say, and you guys were going to say it was perfect or whatever, but you guys literally hit the nail on the head for everything. It's fine to put down the game because it is a Monster Hunter game, and that's established norms, so we shouldn't expect more than what we've been given in the past. But there was an opportunity there for them to build on what they currently have and the audience that they now have and the new people that have come in, and build more content that would satiate that new audience. But I also think the scenario that we're in right now is a great scenario to be in, because they got roasted for it. They're never going to do it again. Like, there's not going to be a Monster Hunter game without endgame in the future. So even if it's the base game, there's going to be that content that keeps the audience engaged. And I would rather have it on a game that has really good gameplay, and we really enjoyed it for a little bit, rather than it being a game that we didn't enjoy the gameplay on, and then it also had a bad end game. I feel like that would have been super damaging to Monster Hunter in general. So so
I think Rise Ultimate has incredible potential, and I hope if they take all the feedback that of all the things that they've hit and missed in the last few years, and they apply it, we're in for a hell of a treat. If they don't, then we're in for a hell of a disappointment. We'll have to wait and see. But I have faith in the team.
I guess the one thing that usually bothers me in that discussion is whenever someone just comes out and is like, game's trash. I'm like, I can't.
Lazy developers. Yeah, well, you can't argue with that. It's like, okay, if you think they're lazy, then don't play their games. Like, oh, you're gatekeeping me. Sure,
here
I am.
we go
Then
again.
don't listen to me. Don't listen to then don't listen to me. If you don't like my opinion, it's fine. If you did make it to the end of the video, thank you for listening to all of that. Hopefully you found my thoughts interesting. And again, a reminder, Third Fleet Podcast is a weekly podcast hosted by myself and Rurikhan, good friend. Check out his content, and also the Third Fleet Podcast lives on his channel, and also various audio out things as well. Checking out the official videos, you'll be able to get all the links and everything for everybody, and the full conversation, because each episode is about 2.5 hours long. It's a pretty meaty conversation each week about Monster Hunter games and things in general, and it's a lot of fun. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry I have not been pumping out content. I've just been focusing so much on playing with my daughter through summer break. Hope you guys are staying healthy. Until next time, happy hunting.